once in your lives, focus your indiscriminate rage in a useful direction.
Welcome to WatchMojo UK, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 greatest John Oliver moments.
Our prison population is bigger than Slovenia. Well, I see your music choice and I raise you fire. Roosevelt may have given you a fancy watch, but that is water resistant.
Before we begin, we publish new content every day, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. For this list, we'll be breaking down the funniest, most memorable and culturally relevant segments from the HBO News Satire program. Number 10. Coronavirus. When coronavirus arrived in 2020, almost no other country in the world was hit as hard as the United States.
Can you get the coronavirus by eating Chinese food?
No! No, you can't!
In the beginning, Oliver was quick to criticize the American media and vague government responses to the outbreak in March 2020.
2% of people is a lot when you're talking about those people dying. Think about it this way, 2% of people disappearing was literally the premise of The Leftovers.
While Trump and his administration downplayed the seriousness of the situation, Oliver insisted we take no chances with COVID-19, and his words have aged like milk.
We have contained this, I won't say airtight, but pretty close to airtight.
Well, which is it?
With the virus spiraling out of control in the US late into the summer, Oliver expanded his coverage from home to include the pandemic's effects on essential workers, the unemployed, the incarcerated, and the dangerous spread of coronavirus conspiracy theories.
Why would you close the beach? You've got sequences in the soil, in the sand. You've got healing microbes in the ocean, in the saltwater. That's insanity.
Yes, it is. Everything that you just said is insane.
Number 9. Dalai Lama. John Oliver doesn't do interviews that often, but when he does, he usually speaks with someone quite noteworthy. We're talking Dalai Lama level noteworthy, or in this case, the actual Dalai Lama. After explaining the Tibetan spiritual leader's role and the problems China is causing with his succession, Oliver played the interview he had conducted with the prominent Buddhist in exile in India.
You don't, to me, look like an evil wolf.
The pair touched on serious topics like Tibetans self-immolating in protest of China and the possibility of the current Dalai Lama being the last, before Oliver lightened the mood by presenting his guest with a calculator watch.
Roosevelt may have given you a fancy watch, but that is water resistant.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Number 8. 2015 FIFA Corruption Case.
The World Cup is one of my favourite things, but it's organised by these guys. FIFA.
Few subjects have received as many segments devoted to it on Last Week Tonight's first few seasons as FIFA, the organisation in charge of international football, and the corruption charges against its officials.
And we have to remain a non-profit organization.
A non-profit with over $1 billion in the bank.
Yeah, but this is a reserve.
A reserve? A reserve of $1 billion.
John Oliver's passion for the sport is really evident throughout all the coverage, and the various pieces are easily some of the best the show has ever put out. Some highlights include Oliver promising to endorse products he finds gross or tacky if their companies pull their sponsorships from FIFA, which he delivers on, and his memorable feud with former FIFA Vice President Jack Warner, which included purchased airtime on Trinidad TV and an announcement accompanied by dramatic music and jets of fire.
You have magnificent music under yours. Well played. Well, I see your music choice and I raise you fire.
Number 7. We Got Him. Even at his most ridiculous, Oliver can be quite serious. In what is becoming a recurring bit, he uses the comedy trope of an over-the-top though premature celebration to declare, "We got him," when he catches President Trump in a lie. After the marching band or basketball dunking tiger come out, he tells them to stop because Trump is still president.
Thanks for coming in. I'm sorry, he's great. So, I'm sorry, guys. That was great, though. But thanks very much. He is still president, so...
This helps Oliver make the point that the benchmarks for what will end a political career keep moving, and what would have tanked a presidency months ago won't anymore. Number 6. Government surveillance.
And I realise most people would rather have a conversation about literally any other topic, including is my smartphone giving me cancer, to which the answer is probably, or do goldfish suffer from depression, to which the answer is yes, but very briefly.
Government surveillance in America is a frightening and uncomfortable subject, but also one that John Oliver handles with grace.
Section 215 is overseen by a secret intelligence court known as the FISA Court, and they've interpreted it to mean the government could basically collect and store phone records for every American, the vast majority of whom, of course, have no connection to terrorism.
He focuses primarily on detailing what programs like the Patriot Act allow the US government to do, as well as Edward Snowden's leaking of the information that revealed the scope of the government's reach, while also touching on the public's surprisingly blasé attitude about surveillance. Half of the piece's runtime is devoted to Oliver traveling to Russia to interview Snowden himself, which made headlines around the world.
How much do you miss America?
You know, my country is something that travels with me. You know, it's not just a geography.
Well, that's already a way too complicated answer. The answer is, I miss it a lot. It's the greatest country in the world.
Despite being a comedian first, Oliver managed to ask plenty of tough questions of Snowden while maintaining an air of humor.
EO 12333 is what the NSA uses when the other authorities aren't aggressive enough or they're not catching as much as they'd like. For example...
Okay, so how are they going to see my...
Number 5. Net neutrality.
We need you to get out there and for once in your lives, focus your indiscriminate rage in a useful direction.
Not only can John Oliver mobilize his fans, he's also pretty good at getting those who don't like him to take action, provided they have a common interest. He proved this twice, both times with a hilarious and informative defense of net neutrality, after comparing putting lobbyists in charge of regulation to hiring a dingo babysitter. He challenged everyone to comment against a two-tier internet.
It's almost as if they've agreed to stay out of each other's way like drug cartels.
Then, in a 2017 follow-up, he mocked FCC Commissioner Ajit Pai's jumbo coffee mug and plugged a URL that took people directly to the FCC comment page.
Instagram models, Tom from MySpace if you're still alive. We need all of you, even, and I cannot believe I'm saying this, Donald Trump's internet fans on sites like 4chan and Reddit.
Both times, the FCC website crashed. Number 4. Brexit referendum.
The United Kingdom, birthplace of the Beatles, and yet very much the world's Ringo.
Brexit, the nickname for the June 2016 referendum, in which voters decided whether the UK should exit from the European Union, has been controversial and financially tumultuous.
Brexit doesn't sound scary, it just sounds like granola bar you buy at the airport. Hey, this tastes like a preserved owl pellet. It, I'm going to Cinnabon. You pushed me into it.
John Oliver covered his homeland's referendum before it was actually held. In the segment, he explains the basics of what the European Union is, identifies its proponents, examines their arguments, and points out their party's history of xenophobia and nationalism.
Just hold up, not British enough to be in our parliament. He's talking about a British citizen who was born in London and raised in Hampshire. How is that not British enough?
Like many other Last Week Tonight stories, this one wraps up with a musical number, this time in the form of a plea for Britain to remain with the EU, while still insulting it as sung by a barbershop quartet. It's not often you hear young boys belting curse-laden songs about economic unions. Number 3. Prison. This early Oliver segment really set the tone for quite a few long-form reports to follow. It took a serious subject, in this case the staggeringly high rates of incarcerations in the US, bolstered by the private for-profit prison system, and explored it with cold hard facts, examples of the human side of the story, and, of course, the host's unique wit.
50 deaths! At this point, you could hire the people who pretend to be doctors on Grey's Anatomy, and you would probably have a lower mortality rate.
Oliver closed the segment by calling back the fact that Sesame Street was now talking about prison, before interacting and singing with his own version of Muppets about the topic.
Our prison population is bigger than Slovenia.
'Cause we put people in jail instead of treating schizophrenia.
Informative, insightful, and funny, this bit is Oliver at his finest. Number 2. Donald Trump.
Our main story tonight, and I cannot believe I'm saying this, is Donald Trump. And I say that knowing that every time his name is said out loud, he has a shattering orgasm.
While John Oliver and Last Week Tonight have tackled Donald Trump numerous times, this in-depth look at the then frontrunner for the Republican Party nomination for the US presidency is by far the most successful and the most biting.
Donald Trump views the truth like this lemur views the Supreme Court vacancy. I don't care about that in any way.
Oliver debunks Trump's biggest selling points, his temperament, his honesty, and his success, none of which are as substantial as Trump claims, while also highlighting the candidate's dangerous inconsistency when it comes to policy.
I don't know David Duke. I don't believe I've ever met him. I'm pretty sure I didn't meet him, and I just don't know anything about him.
Really? That's your best answer there, because you definitely know who he is. Partly because you called him a bigot and a racist in the past.
However, what elevates the piece is when Oliver hits Trump somewhere he actually values, his name, which is also his brand. Oliver reveals that the alleged billionaire's family name used to be Drumpf, a moniker that he feels is much more befitting of the ignorance, bluster, and incompetence of the man himself.
And it may seem weird to bring up his ancestral name, but to quote Donald Trump, he should be proud of his heritage.
Number 1. Coal. We all figured John Oliver would be sued one of these days. Oliver, though, knew exactly what bit was likely to prompt legal action and shared that info with the audience during this segment. When talking about the bleak future for coal mining jobs in America, he brought up a cease and desist letter the show had received from Murray Energy's lawyers and went on to talk about the company's CEO, Robert Murray, anyways.
Murray Energy has sued people in the past. Just last month, they sued the New York Times for libel. They also sued everyone from a contributor to the Huffington Post.
Within days, Murray's lawyers launched a defamation suit against Oliver and HBO. Apparently, the segment's squirrel mascot, Mr. Nutterbutter, was not named as a co-defendant. Oliver went on to win the defamation case against Murray, which served as the perfect introduction for a 2019 episode on strategic lawsuits against public participation.
Trump sued that man for $5 billion. And think about that. That means if Trump had won that lawsuit, he would have been worth $5.2 billion.
Do you agree with our picks? Check out this other recent clip from WatchMojo UK and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.